This is Dane. I've got a unboxing of sorts and intro for a little thing I'm going to do here. You can read this. It's the JESSEM ROUT Lift 2, and I also bought a router specific to it because the routers that I have would not fit this unit, so I ended up getting the rigid. I bought this one because it seemed like it was a little less money, and it was the one that fits the rigid router. Rigid router's 200 bucks. I think this was 245. So this isn't a cheap expedition, but this is something that I've been wanting for a very long time. Let me explain why. This is my current router table situation. Now I can put large, half-inch shank bits in this, but the table is kind of flimsy and you can't see it, but things can move around. So the table on this other router lift is much stronger than this. So, and what I have in here is a half horse, Porter cable, 690 or equivalent. One of these I had so long. This is the 690. One of these I've had for 45 years, and they weren't doing the 690 then. It was some other deal. Anyway, so just going to get this out of the way. You can still use these routers freehand, so they have two of those. I have a couple of Makita plunge routers. I've got a 2 horse or 2.5 horse DeWalt plunge router, but it's square, so it wouldn't fit in here. So anyway, let's pull this over and have a look. I haven't been in here yet, as you saw. I just cut the tape. So we got a couple bags with stuff. I'm just going to pull this out here and get the box out of the way. And then I have directions. So let's move that over. Part of cleaning my shop up had to do with wanting to get what I have. I have a cart under here that's full of clamps, and I was thinking it was going to be in the way if I was thinking it was going to be in the way to, if I tried to put this router lift in there. But you know what? This router lift is actually just a little bit longer than what was here, and it clears the cart just fine. So I'd still rather use that space for other things than housing 500,000 clamps. So this is going to be, and okay, they fooled me. I bought the phenolic because it was less money, and I'm trying not to spend loads and loads and loads on this thing. But anyway, the aluminum was $100 more for the aluminum plate, so I went with the phenolic, and it looks plenty heavy duty to me. By the time this thing gets bolted into the table, you're not going to have any kind of router, play out or anything like that. So let's see what we have to do here. We've got a crank handle which goes in the hole here and sets the height up and down, which is something I couldn't do the other way. I had to physically take the router out of the table and adjust it and put it back in and see how it was and all that. Now, I could do it from underneath, but I don't bend so well anymore. We've got a tool that I'm going to assume is, since the holes seem to line up, I'm going to assume that this has to do with pulling the inserts in and out. And there's a few Allen wrenches and some bolts and things in there, so various hardware. Then we have this router, which I have already opened, but forgive me. And it comes in a bag that it will never go back into. It looks like a pretty nice bag. If I needed to haul anything around, it would be cool to have this bag. And the little dust collector deflector chute thing. And gosh, that's a beast. So there you go. I have no idea what that does. I'll find out. Probably won't need it. I got a feeling it's for, I don't know what it's for, centering the plastic thing when you tighten it down. I don't know. Comes with the wrench and 1/2 inch collet and a couple T-handle thing here. Oh, it's got an Allen on the end of it. Interior Allen, so, or female. So that, and then it does have a centering pin right here. Okay. Anywho. Oh, and the directions are in the little pocket in there. Cool little bag. I'll have to carry some guitar pedals or something in that thing. Pretty nifty. All right, well, that's it as far as the intro goes. I will come back when I start to do the install on this, and yeah, I'll keep you in the loop here. Looking forward to having this set up. The bit I have in mind for this is the Infinity bit that has the top and bottom bearing, and that has the cutters that are slanted toward each other, and you can run your template all against, or not up grain, but down grain, so you don't chip things out. So you can set the router and do all of one style, okay, downhill grain, and then flip it over and use the other bearing, which requires you to reset the height of the bearing on the router, on the cutter. So anyway, that's what I'm looking at with this, because I have this 3 horsepower router that I'm getting rid of, or table shaper that I'm getting rid of. So that basically is paying for this. So yeah, and with the old, no, it's the other way. All right, I will bring you back when I am actually doing something here, and take care. I went ahead and cut a couple pieces of wood here. This is, pretty sure this is pine out of about a 115-year-old piano. I'm going to put some reinforcement under the edge of this because I have to take this out deeper. As you can see, I'm about halfway what I need for this router table top to recess in there evenly. And so I'm just going to line it up even with the inside edge here, because it is it's where it's going to be. Looks like 7.5. And I should be able to just do 2 of them at 7.5, assuming I made it parallel. Close enough. This hole is a little bit bigger, or a little longer. 7 and 9. So 7.5. All right, now we're going to go like that, sort of. Just line these up with the edge. Oh, actually, this one goes out longer. Let me see. So I did mark my table here. Oh, broke my pencil. And I have to think, if I lined that up on the edge, how does that work? Well, I'm just this distance from the cut, so I'm 5/8 of an inch ledge on this, so I'd be 5/8 of an inch here. All right, I think I measured that right. Close enough for this dealio. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and parallel that then. So we're gonna go that way. It's probably a better way to do this, but just trying to figure out what these side pieces are gonna end up being. All right, so I just drew myself a line on the table. It's not exactly like this is super critical if these aren't perfect, so that's why I'm just kind of winging it here. So we're looking at about 13 inches on these two. So let's do that. Up like that. So I'm going to get clamps. I'm going to go ahead and change the battery on this thing. Get clamps, get the right kind of glue. Get myself some sandpaper because this is melamine on both sides. And I use ROUT glue when I'm gluing the melamine because regular white glue or carpenter glue doesn't stick very well. Although I'm probably going to end up putting screws through it, so it's not super critical either. All right, we're back, and I think I've got enough stuff to make sense here. So this is just a piece of cut off from my drum sander, 80 grit. All right, I think we're probably just fine. Just gonna dust that off under there. So now I found the ROUT glue. It's a little bit on the thick side, and I was wondering when I was looking for it if it was going to be something that was still working. And rather than take the time to try to thin it out or anything, I'm just gonna smear it on here with a stick. And this is, like I said, this is made for melamine, but it works for regular wood as well. And so put a little on the edge here that's going to go up against the 2x4. So right in here. There we go. That's it for that. Now that I have other stuff in my way, what I was thinking about doing, and I should have done it before I got clamps in my way, you could put a square in there and make sure that was square if you don't trust your eyeball. But I trust my eyeball. Plus, those are quarter inch grub screws going down in there for the table adjusters. I don't think that I'm going to miss that whole screw by a quarter inch. All right, now I'll pull one of these out. Do the other corner. Clamped and screwed these in. It's been like well over 2 weeks since I did this, probably 3 weeks or more. I went on vacation, did all kinds of stuff over the Christmas and New Year's holiday. So just because I don't know how clear I was when I did it, and I'm trying to remind myself where I'm at, going to have to get some straight edges to run my router against to go ahead and route this hole out to the proper size and the proper depth. And that's why I put these filler strips in here. I'm going to go ahead and put my lift back in here just so I remember which lines are relevant. Okay, so this line right here that I have now have little arrows on. So what do I got here? So this is a 3/4 inch. So that's going to give me a 3/8 radius, which is still probably not as big as that, but it'll be plenty big enough. I have to use a different router. I might have to use the new router I'm putting in here because my little my Makita is only 1/4 inch. Now I've got. Yeah, I'll just use my Porter cables. Anyway, okay, one of them. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I've got to go get myself some fences, make some fences up. You know, just rip some dunnage, you know, 2 to 3 inches wide, and I'll stick it to the table, and you know, follow this line, and then I'll do the same thing here. Cut all that down. Then I'll put the filler in eventually. It's probably not even necessary, but I don't want to have a spot where all this crud collects, so I'll take care of that. All right, so I found a few odd pieces of stuff. I was originally thinking I was going to run right on the lines and use a bearing cutter, but in my 3/4 inch selection, I have a top bearing, but it's too long. So it would have given me too deep a recess. So I had to go past the hole, you know, the cutter plus the size of the, well, oh, I keep forgetting on this one that I'm going all the way over to here. Okay. So I figured it out. It's 4.5 inches. I measured it. It measures 4 7/16, but when you lay the router in and you push the board with it, it pushed it out another 1/16, so 4.5. And so I've got all this stuff set up so that it should fit in there. Now, like I said, I just found some stuff in the shop. This is a neck template, mortise template for my 335s. This is both of these pieces of maple actually were just rips off of neck blanks, and it's been glued down the center. But I opted. I don't think you can see it. No, I didn't screw it down. I used tape, but this board is warped a little bit, so the tape wasn't sticking well enough to trust. So I did that. Now I use screws instead. Now I do have this situation here where I don't have a wide enough spot on my bench to run my router out to a fence. Now, I suppose while this is all taped down here, I just thought of this, I could put a piece in between here and, you know, use that as the edge. So I may do that. I'm going to go ahead and route this other stuff. Before I route my final depth, though, I may have to come back and put a piece in here just because I don't want to have to. I don't like routing final depths and then trying to set up and match that again because it just never really seems to work. However, there's all sorts of adjustments on the router lift itself. So here we go. I'm just going to knock this extra lip out and get that out of the way. Like I said, I wish I had the other part out here already. Yeah, I'll just do this bunch of it. Right, now that we've gotten, well, it's probably going to be, I didn't go all the way here because I didn't know where to stop at, but we can double check and see if this is going to halfway fit. Yeah, it halfway fits. It's even a little bit, I got a little lump there. I don't know what that's about. I'll have to hit it again. Yeah, it's a little oversized, which is not enough for me to worry about. So I'm going to run and smooth this little lump off. Well, it'll come off next time around. I'm going to go ahead and figure out a way to cut something in between here and clamp it all together so that I can run my router into there and it'll be kosher. All right, so I think you can see how cobbled up this is. since I already had these two pieces hanging out here, I just went ahead and suspended this piece of 1/2-inch plywood in between, and then used the cutoff from that to clamp it together. And then I found another piece of scrap here, and I just used that. Doesn't have to be pretty, just has to do the job. So one-time affair here. And so I'm going to go ahead and run here, and it'll clean this corner up, and then we'll drop that in there and see what we've got. And then it's just a matter of dropping it down enough to get the right height. All right. You can't see this in the camera. There's this little bump right here, and I just ran past it again. And I don't understand why that's happening, because, that's just weird. So obviously I'm not as tight here because I got a little teeny bit of a jag right there. So I'm not. Oh, that's right. Well, I screwed that up because I should have had a filler in here. I just set that off of this edge. I need to set it off of this edge. So when I drop down, I've got to readjust this and push it in. Yep, I knew that. Didn't do it, but I knew it. All right, so I'm gonna leave this in here, and you can see it's got a little bit of a bit, and this was already cut out with that 1/2-inch drill bit or router bit, so you can see it's not going to be beautiful. And I'm going to fill this across here, and that's not going to be beautiful. I might come back in here and actually just put some kind of hard filler in there, just so I don't have crap getting stuck down in there. But meanwhile, I'm going to reset this up against here, so I need to push this in. About 1/4 of an inch. No, more than that. Well, I could read right here and tell you. So that's 1/4. 5/16. 5/16 would make it snug. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do that. There again, I mean, I could fast forward through it just so you get an idea of what it's like. It's really cool. So there, I loosened that one up a little and shoved it over. Loosen this one up. Shove it over. I'm just shooting for 2 7 here at this point. This says 2 1/2 right now. So we're going to go in a little more. That one's reading 2 1/2. Still reading 2 1/2. I don't think my dealie on my tape measure was pushed all the way in. There we go. Could do something reasonable, like, add another mark here, 1/16 inch in, but that's 7/16 on each side. So we're good. All right. So now when I drop it down to my final depth, it's gonna do that. So. I was going to do, if I had a large enough area on this plate, which I might right there, is set the router and just let it drop down the difference. So that would give me my 3/8 depth. And I could be a little proud, actually. It'd be okay because I have those set screws. I mean, a little deep. I don't know if proud makes sense or not, but. All right. Right there feels about right. I think I'm going to be just a skosh over, too deep, and we'll see what happens. Oh, my router base chipped off. It's been it's been cracked and glued on there before, so I guess it just gave up. All right, so let's see what we get now. Now I'm still high. Now, and I'm still too, that's just bizarre. I'm still too narrow here, so I'm going to have to pump this out a 16th and redo that. But I need to drop my router bit of fuzz. Actually, I'm kind of right on there. Maybe I am good. Let me bump this out. Anyway, you know what I'm doing. I'm going to bump this out another 16th because it ended up being too tight. Drop that in, see how it flushes out. I might have to go just a skosh deeper. So let's see what happens. But anyway, I'll bring you back in. All right, so I've just routed that and I took a little teeny bit extra out. And so I'm going to call it a night. I just bent over to put my router down and my back just about seized. I about fell on my face. So I'm going to give it a rest here. Go put the heating pad on again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and countersink these holes for the screw heads. I thought that was the right one. No, it's that one. I have so many holes just punched through my table because anytime I'm doing something randomly, I just screw things down. As you can see all these holes here. So I had a bigger plate that I used to screw down here with a router. It was 3/4 of an inch thick, so that it was better, much better than the thin one. Anyway, if I didn't explain that, I'm going to be running these little screws down. You know what, I have shorter screws than this that will do the same thing. So I'm going to run screws into the holes here, just like when I used them to clamp the braces, and these are sticking out the bottom. They're not sticking out that far, so if I don't have a good big enough head on a shorter screw, I'll probably just go ahead and use it. And I could snip them or grind them, but I don't stick my hands under there. Anyway, let's see if I can make some sense out of all of this. It's for the grub screw when you adjust the height of the table. The grub screw should come down and rest somewhere on the head of the screw, and that's just so that you don't sink into this chipboard kind of stuff here. So I'm gonna go see, rummage through my screw bins. All right, so yet another use for this StewMac string gauge ruler. You can drag it across the screw head and make sure you're not higher than the surface. And so I'm down here, and I'll go ahead and pop all these grub screws in. So what I'm going to do in adjusting these, and I may have to readjust them once I'm using the router, and if I realize there's anything that isn't working well, as you come off, like I feed from this side, I think all the time, trying to remember which way things turn. But anyway, as you feed across, the thing you don't want is you don't want it to catch over here, right? and my bench is not, see I'm high here, I'm actually a little high there too. So that means what? It means that this needs to go down. Anyway, I'll get it all adjusted. Ideally, you should be able to go at this from any direction and not have it catch. Now here I have a slight catch here. Nothing like routing and having something catch as you're going across. I like to have it as level as possible. So I mean, I could just have it all proud, so you know you're going to go off the edge here. Okay, don't want. See, that's fine as long as it's. So something keeping me up there. I think I'll back all the centers out and just use the corners, and hopefully that will okay. So now I am just hitting on the corners, and I don't really have any rocking going on. So we'll get it set up that way. So anyway, that's what's happening. I'm just going to go up and down until I'm relatively close on each corner. I'm perfect there. Perfect there. Now, see, I'm high here. But I'll be going off of the table there, so I'm fine with that. So the thing to do now, I think, would be to get your holes here, get your bolts in. Now, if you bought the JESSEM router table, you would have a threaded insert for this to screw into right here. So, but I don't. So I have to drill a hole through there. I'm going to do, and here again, I'm stuck because I was supposed to take one of these with me to work this morning and I forgot to do it. And so I have one in my pocket. I think it's an 8. Probably says in the directions what it is. I think I read that it was an 8. So if I have an 8mm T-bolt, or nut rather, I'm going to drill those out and then just squeeze the T-nuts in from underneath and then just thread into those, and that would be great. So once I have that locked in, I think I can just run these down until they stop, basically, and then everything will be nice and tight. But since I can't do that right now, since I have these other ones pretty much adjusted, I'm going to go ahead and put the router in. And these little guys here lock it into the bench. Obviously, I can pull it out, but it just keeps it from rattling around. And they just slide up to the edge. So I'm going to pull them back and just snug them a little bit so they're not rattling around. Alright, I should probably read the directions on my time. Anyway, I will place the crank handle and the list the dial on the top plate, crank the left carriage up so that it just contacts the O-rings at the top of the carriage shafts. Okay, back up a second here. All right, so you can see this in the video. It But you have these O-rings right here, so we're just going to crank this thing all the way up until it's just touching the O-rings. I think the idea is that allows you to be able to raise your router all the way up, change your cutter without having to, you know, take this all apart or drop the router out from underneath, all that kind of stuff. And then it gives you, so this is your maximum height up right there. Come on. Well, that fits well. Okay, they're saying it needs to contact the inside back of the center hole. I'm not sure what that means. They don't say anything about having, I think this is what it means right here. So I'm going to go with it. And then here's your lock. So that's not the right size Allen. Well, there it is. I knew I messed with this before. They recommend turning this over on some blocks. That's the way sissies do it. Anyway. And I'm guessing that you don't need to break it to have it tight enough. Okay, I'm just tightening anything that's related to this clamping device here, which is these pivot screws, which still seem to be extremely tight. So I don't think I actually loosened anything. Nope. So this puts me through the top of the plate enough that I can rotate this, get that, you know, lock the shaft and change the cutter without having anything in my way. So I like that. So anyway, we're pretty much there, guys and gals. There we go. And we can so all I'm lacking at this point is putting the four corner bolts in and then finishing off my adjustment. Now that I have weight in this thing, it might be slightly different. It hasn't changed. Now I do have a little edge there I'm catching. So I'll go up here with fuzz. I think before I get this completely dialed in, I'm going to take some sandpaper and just take the sharp edge off of here and everywhere. Probably go ahead and fill this in with a strip of wood. I'll just glue a strip of wood in there just so I don't have a big hole. Okay. At some point, of course, I will be running some, you know, bodies or necks or whatever through this, and we'll demo it at that point. The other thing that I haven't mentioned or showed yet is that there's this starting pin that you can screw in on either side here, and that allows you to have a point of contact so you can pivot. Shapers have this sort of thing, so you can pivot into your cutter instead of just trying to brace yourself for the inevitable, you know, contact with the blade. if you pivot into it, it gives you a little more stability. I've never used a pin, so I'll have to try that and see if it aids anything. It's something else I have to keep track of. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and drop this down. Well, no, you know, before I do that, oh, that works so slick. What a deal. Okay, and you have these increments here that are marked. So I go right here from 0. 1 full revolution is going to be 230 seconds, I believe. I'm going down, of course, but so by the time I get here, so if you go from 0, you know, 1/64th, 1/32nd, 3/64ths would be 230 seconds. Yeah, so I don't know what that makes each line. It probably has a thousandths or fractional equivalent, and I'll have to look at the paperwork and see. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put this cutter in. My big cutter. Let's see, where's it at? I know they gave me a router, a wrench with this. Oh, here it is, gosh. Legit. No, that's a wrench. 15/16. Okay. That is indeed a wrench. So, we'll leave it bottomed out in there, and then we'll see what needs to transpire.